Get your stinking paws off me, you damn dirty ape!
We're going streaking!
Dave's Video Graveyard.
That guy in a little coat. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
I'm not a smart man.
Shut up!
One tubby.
What's wrong with him?
My first thought would be alive.
Why so serious?
Wise man say forgiveness is divine, but never pay full price for late pizza.
Hail to the king, baby.
Hey, Mom! The meatloaf! We want it now! The meatloaf!
Of all the radio shows in the world, this is definitely one of them. Dave's Video Graveyard on 100.5 WOWFM.
Okay, you people sit tight, hold the fort, and keep the home fires burning. If we're not back by dawn, call the president.
It is 100.5 WOW FM, Dave's Video Graveyard for your Monday night. An absolute pleasure to be with you. It is the long weekend, and because I got a little bit of extra sleep, I actually managed to get tough today because we are joined by two of the toughest musicians you will ever meet. It is Lance, Lazer and Marc from Tough Boys. How you going, guys?
I'm pretty good, man.
Good, thank you. Thank you for having us.
Not a problem at all. It is such an exciting time to have you both in the studio because it turns out I've been playing a song that you guys feature on for quite a long time, and it is the, is it Big Daddy's Discotheque?
Corey Feldman.
Corey, yeah.
Yeah.
Exciting time.
I forgot about that one.
Yeah, that was
a good day.
a little while ago.
Yeah.
Good song, good track, good clip.
And for those who don't know, actually, we have a little bit of history when it comes to the two Coreys. I don't know if you remember, Lazer, back in the day.
Oh, wow. This
the
is
MySpace days.
You've planned this pretty well
That's
here.
it. I was working in a warehouse at the time, and the boss made the unwise decision of hooking the internet up in the little section I worked in.
Uh-huh.
So I spent a good 2 weeks changing Corey Haim, R.I.P., changing Corey Haim's IMDb as well as his Wikipedia to list his next movie as Lance Lazer the Amazer.
Ah, yes.
And we kept doing it. Lazer got in on it, and finally it made it to the fan boards. At which point someone close to Corey Haim asked him if he was going to appear in it, including people finding, because they did their sleuthing, and they found many a MySpace picture of Lazer, put it up and said, I can't wait for him to play this guy.
Can't wait to see Corey in leather pants,
yes,
was one of the comments.
That was it. And it was great until someone shut it all down.
Yeah.
But I just love the idea that Corey Haim died having heard your name.
Yeah, and thinking that perhaps people thought he was going to be starring as me. But yeah, I had heaps of people message me, like, is it true? Like, is Corey Haim playing you in a movie and all that sort of stuff? And I was like, oh, okay, yep, sure, why not? And, do you remember who you had cast as my mother?
No.
Sharon Osbourne.
Yes, right.
So-
Those were the times. What a glorious time to be on the internet and be a troll back in the early days. So I've known you for a long time, Lazer. Marc, we've only just met.
Yeah.
How did the Tough Boys form?
Oh, well, yeah, we grew up together. You're a Broken Hiller.
I'm a Broken Hiller.
We're Sunraysia.
Mildura guys.
Mildura boys.
The jurors.
And so we grew up together from, I think we met when I was 13 or 14.
So Marc's from the
12,
Caden days,
13?
for lack of a better term.
He is from the Caden days,
Nice.
before I changed my name. But, yeah, then sort of, I guess, drifted apart, but just in terms of life went different ways. And then one day at Mark's younger brother's going away party in Adelaide, would have been 2014 maybe?
End of 2014.
Yeah.
Start of 2015.
And we were both there, and he said, I've got this song, or I've got this idea for a song called Jerks on Jet Skis, man. And I reckon we could do something with it. And then we spent the rest of the night singing the chorus, which is now a song we played at our EP launch for the first time. And
did the name survive? Is it
the name? Yeah, it's still Jerks on. It's
Jerks
just all about
Yeah.
jerks on jet skis and
Nice.
how they roll around like they own the joint. And yeah, from then I think it was the next day we were just talking on the phone, coming up with ideas. Two-Way Street came up on that phone call. It just came up about discussing writing songs. I'm like, hey man, it's Two-Way Street. working together, baby, you and me. And that turned into something. And yeah, just natural progression from there and just took over Adelaide.
Nice. And you guys have, you've scored some pretty awesome gigs in your short, I don't want to say short time, but in your time out there making things.
It definitely ramped up over the last year.
Yeah,
we're starting to get some good stuff going.
And I believe you guys were the backing band for Electric Six. Well, essentially for Dick Valentine.
Yeah, that was good. That was all. I had nothing to do with organising that. I found out. Was it the night before?
Oh, yeah, that the week before.
Like you told me, like 2 days before, I think, and then I had to go to jam the
we had a
night
couple
before.
Of rehearsals, yeah.
I was only at the one the night before.
Oh, that's
you
correct.
guys had
We had
before
one,
me.
yeah.
And what other shows have you guys played over the last?
We opened for the Amity Affliction because obviously
a band with a very open-minded group of people that follow them. So how did that go?
I just wanted a response going into it. I was thinking, man, if we get booed, at least that's something. I just don't want silence, but like genuinely a decent response. I think because the line was crazy to go in. So when we went up, we were thinking, oh, if people are in there, that's good. But people have been lining up for ages because it was out at the Bridgeway.
Yeah, right.
So there was nowhere else for them to go. Yeah. So there was no like pre-drink somewhere else. It's like, let's just drink in line, I guess.
That's awesome.
And so when they came in, they were just ready to rock. And yeah, it was a really good time.
I really like the Amity song. It's the really heavy verses and then the clean vocals on the chorus. All of their songs.
Yep.
So, I actually got, when we announced you guys coming on here, we got a fair bit of feedback because of that show.
Oh,
and
really?
it's people that I know, and this is not meant to be a backhanded compliment, it's people I know wouldn't actively seek you guys out.
Yeah.
But obviously, right place, right time, managed to be standing in front of you guys on the stage.
Yeah. It was a pretty, because Ocean Grove are on the lineup as well, and they're, every song of theirs is just a whole new bag of tricks. So I think, it fit into that vibe of there's no real rules to what you might hear tonight. And so, yeah, we had people who was psyched on it, who then came to the EP launch the week after, and they'd made custom merch of high-vis vests writing our lyrics on it and stuff. And,
yeah, you've made it. That is a sign of making it.
So we're like, oh yeah. And the EP launch went really well. We made enough money to book our first tour on the East Coast, which obviously didn't happen. But don't worry, we bought tickets through Virgin. So
nice.
Yeah,
nice.
We're definitely getting that money back.
That's like I undecidedly bought tickets to see Offspring and Sum 41.
Yeah.
And the promoter said, yes, you are definitely seeing them because you're not having your money back ever. So I have on lay-by a concert to see at some point. How have you guys been going with, obviously, the world falling apart? There was a lot of isolation involved. Watching any movies at that point?
Yeah. I definitely went into that whole, well, let's check out all the movies I've always meant to see. Until you start even getting over that, you're like, man, I'd rather just see stuff that I've seen before or is mind-numbing and stuff. But
well, I remember back in the day, and this has stuck with me for years, a good mutual friend of ours, Mousy, me and him swapped hard drives that were containing pretty much stacked adult movies.
Yeah.
And you made the
That's
call.
where I thought this was going.
You made the call that no matter what, we would not get through all the content before we started downloading other stuff or watching other adult content. So true. And it's the same with movies. You download 10 movies, I promise you're looking around before you get through those 10.
Yeah.
It's just the weirdest thing. And
it's I'm excited about these 10 movies. It's not the set like back in the day when you got the 10 weeklies for $10 or whatever. You were watching those 10
movies. It had a sense of urgency. Yeah. You had a week
to watch them. So you were at least getting 2 movies in a few of those days of the week.
Yeah.
And it meant more. And sometimes you'd even watch one of the movies you hired a couple of times in that week. Because it's like, well, I've hired it. You've invested a bit more in it.
If it was a Saturday morning that you'd hire them, if something rocked your world on Saturday, you'd pull it out again on Sunday before you risk it with something you haven't seen yet.
Yeah, yeah.
What was Sunraysia like when it come to video stores for you guys?
Yeah.
Oh, that massive Video Easy was crazy.
Yeah.
On 15th Street, and the Blockbuster was a stalwart. But I really enjoyed the little
like the mum and pop.
Yeah, the ones in the suburbs or the towns themselves, like Merbeen and I never saw Irimple or Redcliffe's ones, but
I like the fusion of Pizza Store with VHS selection. Yeah.
Yeah, an
That's
absolute staple of any good town.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
What about the likes of? Were you guys privy? Was Sunraysia privy to the few servos or convenience stores that rocked the spinning shelf of VHS?
Yeah, sure.
I never really noticed
to
it too
buy.
much. Yeah, to
Not to hire as such, but to buy. You know.
We I think like I knew them more from if you went on a road trip and stopped in somewhere, you'd see the
carousel.
servos with the VHS sort of.
Until last year, Borough SA had one of their servos that had the 4-way with the horrible videos, and I was like, "This is really exciting."
Dude, I remember my family was always late on tech, so I was on VHSs way longer than I should have been.
Yeah.
And I always really wanted to see, because I loved Halloween H2O, and I'd seen Halloween 6 on Foxtel or Ozstar as we had it, and I'd managed to track down a VHS of Halloween 2 at one stage, and I always wanted to watch the original Halloween, but it was only on DVD, and we didn't have DVD for ages.
Yeah.
I remember like 1 year for my birthday, I got Halloween and a DVD player together, and I was just like, man, my life's changed forever, man.
Wow. I remember I was so stubborn I wasn't going to make the leap to DVD. I'm like, no, I've got all my friends here. I've got all I ever need. And they said, we will give you, a local place said, we will give you any 4 DVDs if you buy like the $100 DVD player, which was, middle range at the time. But they didn't put any asterisks on that offer. So I ended up getting box sets of The Simpsons, like the first couple of things, which they were about $80 each, whereas everyone else was going and getting just single films.
Yeah.
So that's the only reason I made the leap at the time. And
did you guys get Channel 10 in Broken Hill?
no, we had Channel 7, which was kind of an amalgamation of 7 and 9,
Yeah.
and ABC.
So like, because whenever
and
like,
SBS for yellow subtitles and other.
oh, we'd get SBS occasionally.
Yeah,
like,
well,
it
same with
depended on-
Broken Hill.
Yeah, it's like depending on maybe it was a good like.
It's
sort
like
of,
someone's uncle the next street over moved a wardrobe, and you'd get SBS, and then the next day they'd put the wardrobe back, and it was gone.
Yeah.
But yeah, because of that, like I lived in Cairns from 93 to 97, which had Channel 10, so I knew Simpsons from that.
Yeah.
But then I moved to Mildura, didn't have Simpsons. So when I moved to Adelaide, everyone's doing all these Simpsons quotes at me, and I'm like, man, I feel like the uncoolest person in the world because everyone does Simpsons quotes.
If it wasn't anything that I missed in my Simpsons upbringing in 2000 when the Olympics were on, Fox 8 had just launched on pay TV.
Yeah.
A friend of ours had it, and they did nothing but Simpsons episodes just back to back the entire run of the Olympics. So that's how I spent my Olympics.
Yeah.
Awesome. So we might go into a little bit of the music. In fact, we're going to hear from you guys. You mentioned Two-Way Street, so a great way to start. And we'll be coming back with a quiz to find out all about your movie watching habits. This is DVG. Don't forget you can join in the conversation. Jump on our Facebook, Dave's Video Graveyard on WOWFM. 100.5 WOWFM, Dave's Video Graveyard. There we heard from Oingo Boingo with Stay. Also in there, a little group called Tough Boys with Two-Way Street. We heard the origin of that little ditty this evening, which was quite exciting. A bit of director's commentary, if you will.
Hey.
Yeah, off-air talk, on air. This is meta as. So we are joined by Tough Boys. They are here to tell us all about their favourite films of all time. However, we do have the guest quiz that we always have, and it's for 2 people this time. So this is a 6-hour episode this evening. Starting with Mark, would you prefer to watch a movie at home or at the cinemas?
Look, I'm going to stay at home. Comfort, personal comfort, pillows, blankets.
Nudity an option?
It's not an option. It's required.
Necessity.
Yeah.
Nice. Laser?
Yeah, I've got... We did our shed up out the back and call it the skin pit and got a projector and stuff out there.
Nice.
Even so, I love going to the cinema. I will say home, main reason is for bad action movie drinking games.
Yeah.
You can't do that at the cinema.
Good call. What is, if you do make it to the cinema, what is your food of choice, Mark?
Popcorn.
Nice. Simple, classic.
Classic.
Can't go wrong.
That's the most boring answer.
Popcorn.
Popcorn and Coca-Cola.
Maybe a large soft drink.
Popcorn and Coca-Cola.
You didn't let him
classic.
finish. Popcorn that he makes his own in the microwave that he takes into the cinema.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah. I didn't let you finish it all. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Laser, your food of choice.
Gummy bears. I like anything gummy, but I like to get the is it Marabou? Marabou?
Haribo.
Yeah, those guys where one's sweet and one's
sour.
Sweet
and sour. Yeah,
they're
I
the
know.
guys.
Awesome.
Man.
Yeah.
They're a good guy.
Nice. For the rest of your life, you were forced to choose to only watch horror, drama, or comedy. What would you pick?
I think we'll probably both be the same on this, but I thought about this for a bit because I love comedy a lot, but it's got to be horror because you can get comedy, like you'll laugh at a lot of horror movies.
Yep.
So you get the comedy aspect of it. You'll get the comedy horrors that are included, like Tucker and Dale or
Shaun of the Dead.
Shaun of the Dead, and I reckon I could even like make a case for something like Terminator 2 being a horror movie.
Terminator 1 and 2 are both horror movies.
So like, because you're getting stalked almost like in a slasher movie. So it just encompasses a lot more. It's a lot more fun, and versatile.
Mark?
You know what? I was thinking about this, and actually, despite that I love horror and probably some of my favorite movies, I'm going to say the ability to make someone laugh is greater than the ability to scare someone.
I'll pay it.
You know, I think, over time, to think of new ways to make someone laugh in a genuine way is...
That's a good point.
Very rewarding and goes a lot further, I think.
Yeah. I reckon I'd pick horror simply for, much like you were saying, Laser, it kind of encompasses the other two anyway. Because you get a well-placed death of a character you're rooting for. There's your drama. Or, you're laughing at something that happens, whether it be a gore effect or something you shouldn't be laughing at. And, or
even though it's just like purposefully bad, like just like trauma-style horror movies, which are always just going to be hilarious anyway.
Yeah. Mark, which film that didn't get a sequel deserved one?
Did Groundhog Day get a sequel?
Well, you can watch the first one over and over again and count it. But no, that's a good call. That's a good call. Laser?
Groundhog Day 2.
Yeah.
It's like,
and again?
And it's 100. It's 100% just the first movie. Distributed.
Excellent. Yeah.
No, it's the same movie, but like refilmed with the same actors, and they're just a bit older.
Yeah.
You're like, huh?
That would be great.
Like remember that Psycho remake? It was a shot-for-shot remake with like Vince Vaughn and Anne Heche and stuff.
Yeah, and it was coloured. That was.
And I saw that before I saw the original, and I kind of like Vince Vaughn more than Anthony Perkins. So I feel bad about saying that. Sequel. Alita Battle Angel.
Yep.
It was like the way it ends. I'm like, yeah, I can't wait for the sequel, and then it just didn't do well enough. And now there's a huge push on the internet where everyone's like forcing people to watch it. And I think it's done really well on home video sales and stuff, so they're not absolutely saying no to it. But yeah, if you haven't seen Alita Battle Angel, see that it's the best.
Because without making any jokes about the whole situation, Weinstein was flying the flag very hard for Robert Rodriguez.
Yeah.
Behind the scenes. He was getting a lot of things done for Rodriguez, and it's like, you lost that safety net, believe it or not.
But he did such a good job on this.
Yeah.
And he had like Cameron helping him out as well.
Well, you cannot go wrong with two of my favourites in the world. Who would play you in a biopic other than Corey Haim?
I couldn't think of anyone, so I just went with the whoever played Billy. Is it Billy in Stranger Things? The mullet guy?
Yep.
Because everyone kept like saying, hey, there's a guy stealing your look in Stranger Things. So I'll go with him. I got one for Mark, though.
All right.
Sam Rockwell.
I can see it.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah.
Nice.
Sure, look, let's go with that. But if not, I'd like to give Michael Keaton a call,
He'd do it.
Yeah.
Actually,
he's
in saying
a
that,
versatile actor.
when you mentioned a sequel to, funnily enough, even though we're a small regional SA community radio station, you mentioned a sequel to Groundhog Day, and Chris Elliott's been trying to contact the station ever since because he's so out of work that he totally wants in on it. He probably got a Google notification.
Yeah.
Someone mentioned it.
That's the dude who plays like Woogie?
Woogie. Or the small hand guy from
Mad Gems.
Scary movie too. Let's see, what else have we got? A movie that freaked you out the most as a child?
The Shining.
Yeah, right.
But the first time I saw it was in Twister. when it cut to them watching it at the
drive-in. Yeah.
But it didn't cut to them watching it. It cut to the scene, like, come play with us, Danny. And I had no idea what was going on, and I was pooping my pants.
Nice. Mark, poop pants.
Well, do you remember a movie called Mac and Me?
I certainly do.
Oh man, that just really hit a nerve with me as a kid. Aliens and
was it the rubber heads that didn't
know.
look quite right?
Yeah, it really shook me. I was terrified of that movie. I ran out screaming in the cinema from it.
I believe so.
I ate McDonald's again.
And it lives on in Paul Rudd every time he goes on Conan O'Brien for the last 18 years. Whenever he's had to play a clip for one of his movies, he plays the scene where Billy from Mac and Me's wheelchair goes over the cliff into the water. And no matter how many times he does it, it's still comedy gold. Awesome. Man, that movie's so messed up. And the actor that plays the dad of Mac, like the father alien, does this thing with his head. Yeah. And even now, it's spooking me out.
It is.
Even when they're just walking around in the desert and stuff, you're like, what's this movement?
Abnormal. It really...
It's unsettling paper mache, that's for sure. The last film that made you tear up or cry.
Oh, man.
I couldn't think of one
You're
recently.
tough boys, so...
Yeah,
Hey, it's tough to cry, man.
That's true.
I couldn't remember one recently, but the one that I always... You know how you have a go-to one, the movie makes me cry. I Am Sam, man. Every time, why isn't Lucy coming home with me? I'm just like, why isn't Lucy going home with him? He's obviously a caring, loving father. Just put some, supports in place for him.
That's it. Just watch over him while he watches over her.
And also, it's not movies, but the finale of Ally McBeal always gets me. Right. When Billy comes back, they were childhood sweethearts.
I will take your word for it and forget that answer for the rest of my life. Which movie or TV show from your childhood would you want remade as a movie that hasn't already happened?
Ulysses 31.
Right.
It was a French-Japanese cartoon from the 80s based on Homer's The Odyssey, but set in the 31st century. So Ulysses and his son and crew battled the giant Cyclops and annoyed the gods. And so they sent him off into space and wiped the computer's memory of where Earth was. So it's about their adventures trying to find their way back.
Wow, it sounds very light viewing.
Yeah, it was a nice little kids' cartoon that I grew up on with the catchiest theme song of all time.
Nice. Did you tape it onto your VHS that you kept for longer than everyone else?
I never had a tape of that, but I do have the entire series on DVD now.
Nice. Nice. What about yourself, Mark?
Oh, look, I was just thinking then. I have two. I have to pick one, though, don't I?
Say them both.
Let's have them both.
Okay, sure. Count Duckula.
Nice.
Awesome. But then Banana Man. Yeah. Was there ever a Banana Man movie?
Never been.
Imagine that banana shortage.
What about that whole, there could be almost like a movie that encapsulates, say, get Super Ted involved.
Braggy Dolls are there.
Oh, yeah.
They could be the bad guys.
Henry's cat.
Charlie Chalk, the clown, could show up. Man, ABC for kids.
Just a movie.
I would unfortunately make it a success how many times I went.
And it would start off with, it happened to a friend of mine. Just bring it all in.
And Noni Hazelhurst would play herself in it.
Yeah, great.
Or The Moon, if you've seen it lately. If you could add your favourite fictional character to any other film to make it better, who would it be and what would the film be?
What was my answer? I did think about this. It was Ryan from the OC, because Ryan from the OC is the best. I don't know if you've ever watched the OC.
I haven't, but is it what's his name? Adrian? No.
No, not Adam Brody.
Adam Brody.
No.
That's who I was thinking in my mind.
No. That's Seth. Seth sucks.
Is it the Dear Sister guy?
Dear Sister guy
that shoots. Remember there
He's
was
the one
skit that
who...
we're obsessed with.
Yeah. I do know Dear Sister, but I was thinking, wait, was one of the Lonely Island dudes in
the original?
He would have been. He's in that scene, but he's not the one who gets shot.
Right. Okay.
It's his brother gets shot in it, but who's Logan Marshall Green, who played his brother Trey. But yeah, Ryan from the OC. It was in some movie, and it was just about. I forget which movie it was.
I can give you a hint. It had everyone's favourite French-Canadian actor, that is Christopher Lambert.
Oh, Highlander. Yeah, so if there could be only one, I want it to be Ryan from the OC. There we go.
Nice. And Mark, who would you put where?
All right, so let's say you get a pretty serious movie like Schindler's List.
Yep.
And then you get Drop Dead Fred.
Yeah, I can see where you're going. Yep.
You know.
I want to see that.
And the only colour would be Fred's green outfit.
But he brings
or
joy.
his red hair.
Yeah, he brings joy to the kids. You know?
Would it be called Drop Dead Fred 2 or Schindler's List 2? Like, what's the dominating force?
Oh, goodness me. I don't know. You have Schindler's List, and then you put Drop Dead Fred in it.
So it's Schindler's List 2. The Fred years, or
the Freddening.
I don't know. Don't ask me those questions.
Is he like Schindler's imaginary friend?
Oscar
Schindler's imaginary friend.
Yeah. Could you just imagine though?
Or Stans
in the alternative universe where Rick Mail was there annoying the crap out of everyone on set. What an amazing thing that would be. The other question, any vehicle from a movie that you could drive, what would you pick?
I'm on my L's. I don't care about cars.
Nice.
So, I don't know if it counts, but I'd go the telephone booth from Bill and Ted.
I'll play it. Yep.
Oh, it's got to be Tim Burton's Batmobile.
Nice call. That's
absolutely
both answers that I would personally give as well. So fantastically done. Yeah. And that is the quiz. Hopefully everyone out there has got to know a little bit about you guys. Where can everyone check you guys out on socials?
Tough Boys on everything. It's either Tough Boys or Tough Boys Official. The Instagram's Tough Boys Official. I think the Facebook's Tough Boys Official. But if you search for it, we usually come up.
Is Tough Boys Unofficial run by someone that runs like your Angel Fire fan site?
There's we were GeoCities.
Nice.
Asian Prince 213.
With a cjb.net web address, because you could get them with the pop-up.
Yeah.
Nice. No, we got a toughboys.tk.
TK, yeah.
Nice.
But I will say that we've got all videos on YouTube as well, so check them out.
Awesome. We're going to get back into the music, then we hit the movies here on DVG. That's right, it is Dave's Video Graveyard. We're joined by the Tough Boys for a guest choice special. They're taking us through our favourite films, their favourite films of all time, starting with Lazer. He's gone back to 1975, and he's picked the Susan Sarandon classic. It depends who you want to grip onto when you say the classic, whereas the Tim Curry classic.
The Barry Bostwick.
The Barry Bostwick.
There's a lot of Bostwick fans out there, I'm sure.
The Meatloaf classic that isn't Fight Club. We are talking about Rocky Horror Picture Show. Why did you pick this film?
I grew up on Rocky Horror. The main thing is, apart from the story's just whacked out as hell, and it's like they've pushed it to the limit of what can we get away with. The songs are amazing. Like, it'd be in my top 5 albums as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, every performance is spot on because it feels like it's a bunch of mates got together and just going, oh, let's do this and see what happens. And it just came together perfectly.
Yeah, 100%. For me, I had the wacky auntie that, mum and dad weren't into any of this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But we had the weird auntie that loved to show us. Like, she's the one that got us into Grease, Little Shop of Horrors, all the musicals and stuff.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget that for years, Rocky Horror Picture Show was a half-an-hour movie. Because Frankenfurter would come down in the elevator, do the Sweet Transvestite song, and that was the end of the film. Turns out years later, I was watching it at Capri Theatre, and I'm like, what's all the buzz about this movie? And, the time warp wasn't even in the film. It makes no sense what's happening. And it turns out that she had been sheltering my little brain from the sexual content. So for years, I thought this was a half-an-hour film, but... Man, it is pretty perfect. Amazing songwriting. And I've tried so many times to visit Richard O'Brien's Shock Treatment or Shock Therapy, the sequel.
Shock Treatment, yeah.
And
it takes a few watches, actually.
I've tried many times. And you know what? Barry Humphries is the worst part of it. And that's I think I'll lose my citizenship come next Australia Day. But I just couldn't handle it. It was just so annoying.
It took me, maybe it was my 5th or 6th go that I finally got through the whole thing. And it felt like they were you could tell, all right, this is going to be our time warp. This is going to be our thing. but it also felt like they were forcing everything to happen. But it still got some good moments, really whacked out moments. But on your point of you getting sheltered from this stuff, I had the opposite, where I guess the TV became my babysitter at times.
Nice, yep.
And I remember once in Cairns, I was 7, and my mum took me to the video store before she took me. She was at uni at the time, and she was going to the common room, and she was going to put me in the corner with my video, and I hired the Toxic Avenger.
Nice.
Which has
the Troma classic.
Copious amount of titties and gore and just craziness. And then by the end of the movie, I had like a lot of her uni mates sitting around watching it with me, and she was just embarrassed. Like she thought it was a kids' movie, which like it became like Toxic Crusaders. It had
Toxic
like
Crusaders in '96.
Yeah. So it had like the kids spin-off. But yeah, that's how I was never sheltered from the stuff.
I recently tried to revisit Troma because they were a big staple of my younger days. I was obsessed with it back in the day because it was so edgy in primary school to be into Troma films. And one thing I'll say is the sound design is the most unsettling part of it. The screaming of characters and it's not the gore. It's just the constant screaming that you've got to watch it at a volume where you can't hear the dialogue.
Yeah.
Because we're old men now. Well, I'm an old man now, so I can't handle it anymore.
Yeah.
What's your favourite song in Rocky Horror?
It'd probably be I'm Going Home, but there's I love Superheroes, which Superheroes is cut out of a lot of broadcasts of it, and I don't understand why. It's the most important song.
100%.
It blows my mind that sometimes it just cuts to them just like lying in the fog and then goes out straight to the narrator. It's just like, what about their song, man?
There's so many scenes of the narrator that are taken out and put in different versions.
Yeah.
I've got 2 different versions on VHS. And one, he is such the integral... He's telling you bits that you're like, hang on, I've seen the song that you're explaining. Like, just show me the song. I don't want to hear this part.
Yeah.
Yeah, great choice. And if you could be any character in the film, who would you be?
Rocky. He's just a dope and he's hilarious. Cracks me up, man. Like, there's just something about him that no matter what, like when that scene, Rocky, and he just keeps turning. Like, I'm like, yeah, I'd love to be that little bitch, just like.
Nice. Well, it's time now on the show for us to put our prog caps on and become super wanky, because it's time to hear a little bit of music from Mark's first choice. This is DVG. It is 100.5 WOW FM. We're travelling back to the year 1977, slowly working through the 70s with Tough Boys. Mark has picked, from 1977, Suspiria, directed by Dario Argentino, music by Goblin that we just heard. It still makes me want to fight anyone in a prog band. But anyway, why did you pick this film?
All right, so Suspiria. I mean, there was a period going back nearly 10 years, over 10 years, where I was watching quite a bit with my good friends, quite a bit of like Italian horror, the giallo, mystery movies, and they introduced me to Suspiria by Dario Argento, and I remember watching it and just being captivated by the atmosphere and the cinematography and just the focus on aesthetic throughout the movie. And obviously the storyline, the overdubs, just the charm of it all, I just thought was, intoxicating. Incredible.
A lot of the Italian horror movies that came out, particularly late 70s, and a lot of Dario's work, it has this weird inbuilt sense of dread with the sound design.
Oh, for sure.
And so I watch any of his films, and I don't feel sick, but I just get this unsettled feeling just from watching, and it's because of the sound. It's hardly any, because it's very, it's art house. It's very unsettling visually, but it has this other level, and I get it also in the film Dawn of the Dead, the zombie movie. There's something about the way the sound design is in that, and you just feel dreadful watching it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's really effective, all of Dario's films. This obviously is your favourite of all those?
Yeah, I mean, Inferno, that's a real surrealist movie, that one. It's just that atmosphere is very strange. I mean, nothing compares to Suspiria. Nothing can really top it in that regard, but The Mother of Tears was okay, but Tenebrae, Deep Red. I mean, all good stuff. But Suspiria, I just think the fusion of the visual, the storyline, and of course the sound design is it's brilliant, just perfect. I think it's just a great expression of Italian horror.
Yeah,
really. I mean, between Argento and Fulci, I mean, there's some really good stuff there. But I have to go for Argento Suspiria, as the one, so to speak. Yeah.
So you've picked a few horror movies on your list this evening. We won't go too much into it. But what is your background? Obviously, this is considered by a lot of people, particularly Dario film, a very purist form of horror. So it's like very, it's the sense and the way it's made. Like every element of it comes together to create the scare. Whereas you look at like the trashy stuff of the 80s and it becomes like slasher films and it almost... It loses a bit of its culture by becoming this new thing.
Don't you dare say that.
No, I'm just saying. Did you hear how wanky his answer was? I'm going to step it up. What do you have an appreciation for all types of horror or more the
absolutely.
surreal stuff?
No, absolutely. I mean, I watched a lot of Hammer horror. Anything that anything that can create a sense of atmosphere. I love atmosphere above all things. I love, I think the Hammer horrors, Christopher Lee.
Peter Cushing.
Yeah, Peter Cushing, absolutely.
MC Hammer.
Yeah. But yeah, Twins of Evil or,
MC Hammer horror.
That is a shirt for tough boys, if anything ever is. MC Hammer horror. Yeah, what about the trash of the barrel? So would you go, obviously, Hammer is also held in high esteem as quite a cultural style of horror. What about the trash? What about the Evil Deads of the world and the Peter Jackson films?
No, Evil Dead's classic. I love Your Darkness.
Yep.
I love that growing up. That's one of my favorites because it was a perfect fusion of humor and horror. Awesome. I don't look down on that at all. Not at all. Brilliant. Yeah, and Peter Jackson's, makes me laugh. It's just incredible. No, I love all that. Don't get me wrong. Absolutely, as we're talking, trauma movies for sure. I mean, anything with
What's that one you gave me? I haven't watched it yet. Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things.
Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh yeah, even like movies like Wizard of Gore, Blood Feast, Go Girls. Like Herschel Gordon Lewis, man, he's stuff like that type of real, just out there, crazy, just. Oh man, yeah.
I love the story. We had Dick Dale on the show of Trashorama Film Festival and stuff, and he was telling the story of back in the day where you have, like, with the video nasties and stuff in Australia, you had to ring up the video shop and, like, prove to them that you're on the level and be like, do you reckon I could get some? You couldn't go and get it, but they'd post it to your house. Yeah. And he goes, and then some people actually got raided for having, like, because it was the video nasty, so it wasn't classified, which meant it wasn't allowed to be released or seen in Australia. And I'm like, it's so funny because we grew up in the in-between stage where everything was just free domain, where you could just get it where you'd find it. And there was no real, there was no element of danger to anything. Like, I remember having a VHS copy in, like, early high school of all the Faces of Death and all, like, those, like, exploitation-style horror films and stuff. And it was nothing, whereas you give it 10 years earlier than that, and you could have been arrested for having it.
Yeah. Yep. My version of that sort of danger was you'd tape a movie, and then at the end of that movie, you'd use that, whatever was remaining, for whatever you could tape off SBS.
Yes.
For the nude scenes.
Well, I've said this many times on the show. I still get quite, I guess you'd say, aroused just at yellow subtitles, because I spent so much of my younger time watching boobs on SBS that it was just, it's ingrained. It's like a sensory thing. Yeah. Nice. SBS was a godsend back in the day. It gave us all South Park, but before then it was SBS sex, boobs, soccer. So that was what I thought it stood for years. And I still want to hit up the guy that did all the ratings warnings to do something for our show. Yeah. Because he has the most iconic. As soon as he'd say nudity or something, you're like, VHS straight in the VCR. I was
medium level sex scenes
because I was such a sporting, popular kid. I was a 2 VCR kid because mum and dad upgraded, so I was the Jack Sparrow of Broken Hill, and not just because no one likes Jack Sparrow anymore, but also because he was a massive pirate. And I remember I even had ways around, like if you tried to copy the original despecialized Star Wars trilogy, it had a built-in thing that made it all like scrambled.
Oh, wow.
But I knew that if you went out of it into like just a splitter and back in, I'm amusing myself right now. Yeah, bypassed it essentially. That's how much of a pirate I was.
Damn.
So I'm sure one day George Lucas will come knocking at the door, and will come straight from Rundle Mall where he's been photographed eating the food court.
He's just trying to be a regular dude.
That's it, with more money than any of us will ever know. Awesome. Did you bother with the remake of Suspiria?
No, I didn't actually, man. I don't know. I just, what was that? 2018?
Yeah.
Did it come out? Yeah. No, it was like, I heard a bit about it, divided opinions, but no, I haven't put the time or effort into seeing it, to be honest with you. So can't comment.
Nice.
Can't comment.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing with us your first choice. Let's get back into stuff. This is DVG. It is Dave's Video Graveyard, and once again we return to Uncle James's backyard because we are talking about the world's greatest, most perfect film in the history of the world, picked by Lance Lazer. Why don't you tell us that film?
It's Terminator 2 Judgment Day. I'm guessing you've spoken about this movie a lot on this show.
There's much ground not covered, but it's about what the film means to you.
Yeah.
It's not about the film itself.
Well, first time I saw it, way too young to see it when it was first theatrically released, but I saw it at, I guess it was a family friend's house. I can't even remember where I was. I just remember put the video in, absolutely scared of T-1000, but became obsessed with it. And every week we'd go to the video store, I'd hire it out again. And I just kept counting until I've now seen it 101 times. It never gets old. Everything is perfect about it, even the mistakes, except for, as we were discussing off air, Jimmy Cameron's still trying to fix up. Like, I want to see Robert Patrick's ballsack.
That's it.
I want to see it. I look for it every time.
It was on TV 2 weeks ago, and it wasn't the 4K version.
So ballsack was there.
There it was.
Because it's not even like you're seeing anything. You just know that wasn't meant to be seen.
Yes.
And there's a sort of just like natural sort of like, that's great. Like, this happened. It makes it feel realer that they haven't like placed everything perfectly.
100%. And it's a testament to filmmaking in the 90s, because 1991. It's a testament to when imperfections had to be part of it because you couldn't control everything.
Yeah.
You couldn't CGI everything. And we were talking about Terminator Dark Fate earlier this evening, and it's like, it's at a point now where you can get away with literally the perfect visual film. But it doesn't mean the charm's there.
Yeah.
Like, just because you can fix it with CGI and that doesn't mean that we don't want to see Robbie Pat's little Patricks. But honestly, every time I watch this, I pick something else. Like, you said that you've seen this movie 1,000 times? 101 times.
1,000 would be a bit outlandish.
I've revisited this film maybe tri-monthly since it came out.
Yeah.
I make it's an event to revisit this film. I last year had the revelation of the arm that he leaves in the press.
Yeah,
would be the catalyst for the whole storyline.
When I was like 6 or whatever, my older sister always said that one to me. She said, "Oh, the next one will be because his arm's still stuck in the press."
Yeah.
Like my older sister always said that to me. So I was expecting this new Terminator to come out, and that was to be the thing. And then just no Terminator came for another like 12 years.
Yeah. The second one is that Robert Patrick's T-1000, his clothes are built into himself, so he chooses to be naked at the point of entry in the film. Because his clothes are part of him, so there's no reason for him to show us his Robert and his Patrick's.
Maybe it's because he hasn't been able to copy anything from the future that would fit in
Nice.
to 1991. Or that's the one imperfection that I would just ignore every time, and is it 95? Is it 91? He's meant to be 10. He's obviously older than 10. If he's 10, it's 95, because the first one is definitely set in 84.
Also, finding out that because the film took so long to make, that Edward Furlong hit puberty.
Yeah,
and they had to redo all of his lines at the end.
Some of them are still like pre-pubescent, like high voice, and then
when he calls out to the 3 wrestler guys to come
Yeah.
over, you calling Wyatt a dipshit. That is pre-puberty voice,
Yeah.
100%.
Oh, that whole scene, man. Prove it. Stand on one foot. And like that whole thing. But then, like, when they've done gone back and done the overdubs for his pain, it's just like, like, constantly.
And also, last year it became a big thing that I got tagged in a billion times. The guard that gets thrown through the window at Pescadero facility.
Yeah.
It's a white guy when he's thrown, and then it's a black stunt double that lands in the hallway. So
I've
that's a new
never
one.
noticed that
It's
one.
a new one that came out last
wow.
year, and I was like, oh, I didn't see that one. This is one of those films that's so ingrained in my childhood and my psyche and my memory that even seeing things like a bottle of drain cleaner, I instantly think of Terminator 2. So many things. Anytime I see a drainage ditch, I just imagine a truck driving into it.
Oh, dude, going back to what we were saying with the CG and stuff, it's not even just the fact that it's stunts. You know you're seeing these trucks. Like, I watched Mission Impossible Fallout last night, and the helicopter scene was unbelievable. It made me think of the helicopter in T2, and it's so exciting watching a helicopter go under this bridge, and there's nothing outlandish going on. It's just floating there. But like, any little movement wrong could actually blow this actual helicopter up. Unlike if they did it CG, they'd have it like right near the edge, be zooming, like be angled. It'd be like
it would go upside down or something. Totally
it's like, why do it that way when it's way more exciting? Whoa, this is happening. It gets you way more on edge.
I revisited 28 Weeks Later last week.
Yeah.
And there's a CG helicopter in that. And there's actually a scene where it flies between a heap of wind turbines. And you don't even grit your teeth watching it. You're just like, oh, that's nothing. But like you say, Fallout, you're like, oh.
Yeah.
It just hits this other level.
It's what you need. Like the CG thing, if they use it as a cost-cutting measure, but they can't control themselves. They're like, well, if we're going CG, we might as well like push it right to the edge of what like might happen. It's like, no, now I'm out of it. Now I'm like watching a big-budget cartoon that I don't care about.
Nice. And it was only last year that I finally made the connection. The Boots, Bike, and Clothes guy at the start looks so much like my dad. It's not funny.
I was about to say, wait, is this a new one I haven't heard of?
This is a new one you haven't heard of. I'm keep putting it on IMDb, and I keep getting blocked on the website. But that's another little fact that you won't hear anywhere except here on DVD.
Now I'll think of you, your dad, every time I watch the movie.
You're only human. This is DVGs. We jump back into the music. It is the Tough Boys Guest Choice Special. Don't forget to join in the conversation. Jump on our Facebook, Dave's Video Graveyard at WOWFM. It is 100.5 WOWFM, Dave's Video Graveyard. We're joined by Tough Boys taking us through their favourite films of all time. And the next choice is out of order. It's from Lazer. We are talking about two fantastic films that have only aged in the use of a certain F word, but beyond that, perfection. We are talking about Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure as well as Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. Lazer, why did you pick these two films? And how much does it upset you seeing Ted's Nan?
Seeing Ted's who? Oh, isn't it Bill's Nan?
Sorry, Bill's Nan.
Confused me there. Look, I'm gonna get expert on you if you stuff up. Well, the crazy, actually, you brought up Bill's Nan. I forget who was showing, but the first time they ever saw it, they went, "Is that the guy who plays Bill?" And I'm like, "How did you pick that? Like straight up, I never would have got that." But yeah, everyone remembers the nightmare scenes in Bogus Journey. They were speaking about like what freaked you out as a kid. I think that freaked everyone out as a kid, the nightmare scenes. Why did I choose these movies? They managed... Like, everyone always likes to talk about, like, Wayne's World versus Bill and Ted, that sort of thing. Where Wayne's World's like a comedy movie that's set in this sort of area where it's like the Muso fans, all that sort of thing. Whereas this is just like a tripped-out adventure movie that's more based on, I guess, the ideas behind the innocence of these characters and what they would see as world peace, what they would see, how the world should be. And it just becomes way more than just your average sort of comedy. And yeah, I chose... because you gave me, you said choose 5 movies. I snuck both of them in. I like Bogus Journey a little bit more than Excellent Adventure, but both soundtracks are incredible, and yeah.
Yep. I also love that this is also, both these films are testament to filmmaking, particularly of the time and the budget, where they just had to be clever about how everything was done. So whether it be Station in the second one being a practical puppet, or the robot Bill and Ted's being practical puppets as well. One of the things that impresses me so much, and I love bringing it up, is in Bogus Journey, where Bill and Ted are killed by the evil Bill and Ted. Yeah. Spoiler alert for anyone that hasn't
evil
seen
robot asses.
Anyone that hasn't seen a film from 1991. They wake up as essentially ghosts of themselves, or their souls wake up. They're totally washed of colour. And that was all done practically. They just got the clothes, but like, you know, the grey versions of their wardrobe.
Put
so that
white
whole
makeup on them.
Yeah, the whole effect is done in camera, which is just, that's amazing to me.
Yeah. Oh, and that whole sequence is just brilliant, especially when they go and the scene where they're battling death, I think, is one of the most iconic scenes.
Yeah.
Best 2 out of 3. Bill Sadler's king. I love Bill Sadler.
I love every time he comes up in something because he's an amazing character actor. Yeah. So you see him in the likes of like Die Hard 2, you see him in Shawshank Redemption, pretty much everything. Demon Knight, he's great in. It's so funny when he pops up because death is where my brain instantly goes to.
I feel like it's become his most iconic role, but he's like the main villain in Die Hard 2. Like, that's a huge role, yet no one really... the other ones, you got like Alan Rickman, Jeremy Irons, these award-winning actors, and he's in between them as the villain. Like, he's on their level in the series.
Well, speaking of someone that's obviously cultured in the franchise, do you think Timothy Olyphant brings it?
Like in general, or
in part 4 as the big bad?
I'm reserving. Okay, it's not about Timothy Olyphant really. It's just anything after 3. It lost what Die Hard was to me.
John McClane became an unkillable machine.
It wasn't even about John McClane even. Like, at least the first 3 are this sort of controlled set environment, and then it just kept pushing. Like, it seems like he's on the run heaps, he's all this sort of stuff, and he's saving the world more. And it's just like, man, it used to be just... here's the scenario, John McClane's got to get out of it.
Survival is the key, not saving the world.
Yeah, I was just like, what Die Hards were you watching? So I just sort of clipped both that, and I didn't even finish Good Day to Die Hard.
And, well, much like the Terminator franchise, Jai Courtney is the sign of the worst part of the franchise.
I like Jai Courtney, I'm going to say it. He's also in Alita Battle Angel, so everyone go and watch Alita Battle Angel.
Nice. He's also in Suicide Squad. So
I watched that one, which if you want to get toasted, watch that movie. This is the only memory I have of it. And drink every time a new song's played, because I think it's every 2 minutes.
The money they would have spent on that soundtrack, but it's so forced that it doesn't come. Yeah. On the other hand, speaking of great soundtracks, you did mention Bill and Ted's soundtracks for both films. Oh man, what a cultural time capsule of all things great.
I remember, like, just a little off topic but on topic, I remember tweeting Alex Winter years ago, like, just frightened. I'm like, if Bill and Ted's 3 ever gets made, it's not going to be like modern rock sounding stuff, is it? Right? And he goes, I shudder at the thought. And I was like, oh, phew. And then, like, you hear what they've done a bit with the new one, and it sounds exactly how it's meant to sound. So I'm pretty psyched on that. They got Kid Cudi in it as well, who I like. But
Alex Winter actually blocked me years ago on Twitter because I kept begging to buy his Lost Boys jacket, and he finally said, "You can no longer talk to this person."
Well, he's also a very successful documentarian, but
he's also in Freaked. So while we're just throwing
he created Freaked,
great, yeah.
So, but yeah, the music. I think I like Excellent Adventure slightly more. I think it's because I was about to say something, then I was disagreeing with myself straight away in my head. I think I'll just put it over because of Play With Me solo, which is the greatest guitar solo of all time in the mall scene. But then the way Bogus Journey ends with the Steve Vai guitar solo kicking into Kiss, God Gave Rock and Roll to You. That's probably my favorite ending. That and the end of Breakfast Club are probably my favorite endings to any movie.
Yep. I'd put it up there with the ending of The Mist. It's like
oh man,
my
that's
favorite
a good one.
endings of films.
Dude,
of all
I remember
time.
when that happened. I stood up and clapped. Actually, oh no, I got one for you as well. Have you ever seen The Last American Virgin?
No.
I will not ruin the ending for that, but you have to track that down. It was like a lower budget version of Fast Time at Ridgemont High, and it's better, it's funnier, and better soundtrack, and the ending. Oh.
Nice. So add it to the list. The next two films from Lance Lazer is Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure and Bogus Journey. We continue the trip through the Tough Boys' favourite films as we go into a little bit of... it's going to be a journey. Let's hear from Michael Stipe to get us in the mood. This is DVG. It is 100.5 WOWFM as we play every music teacher's favourite band that isn't Dire Straits. There we heard from Michael Stipe with Happiness, taken off the soundtrack of the 1998 film picked by Mark. Now, I guess we should probably put a trigger warning out and a content warning for this film. It is the R-rated film that was touted as the biggest breakout success of the Cannes Film Festival since Pulp Fiction. Now, that is a big path to lay for this film. It is a very grueling film. Why did you pick it, Mark?
Well, yeah, good question.
You're regretting it.
Watching this movie was one of the most anxiety-inducing experiences. It was, as the film progressed, I kind of didn't know what was going to happen next. And I just remember being in a state of anxiety the whole time nearly. It was just, I couldn't believe what they were showing and how they were showing it. I was laughing, I was cringing, I was horrified. It just, it was an extremely challenging movie that just...
For anyone that hasn't seen the film, it's essentially an ensemble cast, and it's kind of how their lives intertwine in a small town. But they're all... It's essentially the search of happiness is the premise of the film, and it's the different lives of the different characters. We've got Philip Seymour Hoffman playing like an introverted pervert type dude. Mm-hmm. We've got... let's just say I'm so surprised every time I see Dylan Baker working again that he's in something, because he plays a sex offender, for lack of a better term, and it's really...
Yep.
I've got to say, in defense of this film, it does not condone his actions. It just explores an alternative, something that really happens. It shows a different version of it. Like, it shows a realistic portrayal of something terrible. Mm-hmm. But you, as a viewer, are the one that has to draw the line and say, this is a terrible thing.
That's right,
which the film copped a lot of flack, and it still does. You read the comment sections of anything to do with this film online, and it's all saying that it's glorifying the lifestyle of one of the characters, which isn't true.
Not at all.
It's just displaying the... And we were talking a little bit off air. I haven't rewatched this film since the first time I saw it back in like early 2000s, because it does have that, much like we were saying, the dread of Suspiria, this movie just makes you feel dreadful. And funnily enough, the most optimistic character, played by Jane Addams, Joy, is the most soul-crushing part of it, because it's almost like the ray of light in the film. You're like, oh, fantastic. She's she's the moral compass. She's going to get the happy ending. And you're like, life just... She gets hit in the head so many times in this movie. A cool performance in the early parts by John Lovitz. We're talking a little bit off air. And I always mistook this. There was another Philip Seymour Hoffman film where he gets addicted to huffing paint.
Okay.
And it is just very similar kind of film. Though.
All right. Yeah.
And I always mistook it. And I feel like I sent this film someone's way thinking that it was the other one.
Nice work.
So is it the phone sex pervert movie, or is it huffing paint?
Let's not typecast the guy. Come on, man.
But yeah, that scene where the dad's talking to his son and admitting the stuff is definitely one of the most intense things in the history of cinema.
Confronting and it's, if someone were to say this is a terrible movie, I wouldn't disagree with them at all. I mean, it's just what can you say?
It's not a terrible movie.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah,
it makes you feel terrible.
There,
that's a good way to put it. If you want to if you want to watch a movie that afterwards you just don't feel like...
It's the feel-bad hit of the summer. It's the same... I've said it before on the show. It's the same warning I put on the Hugh Jackman, Jake Gyllenhaal movie Prisoners. It's a great movie if you want to feel really terrible about the state of the world. The film I was talking about is 2002's Love, Lisa. So that's very similar film.
Oh, yeah.
Never heard of it.
It's really fun and happy. You should watch it with the family. That's what
Cool.
Watch this, then watch Happiness, and then a Serbian film, and watch it at a family barbecue, and you've covered all bases.
Okay.
One of only two films I've deleted off my hard drive in the history of digital media is
Serbian film. Yeah, that's
bad.
That is bad.
And don't get me wrong, let's say Happiness doesn't belong in the same category as a Serbian film, but it is so grueling of a film.
Yeah.
Do you revisit it any time, or it's just one that stuck with you?
Yeah, that just stuck with me. I think I revisited it once, and it's not something I would, how do I say it? It's not something I search out, willingly. It's just something I came across, I saw it, and I was like, wow, what, this...
You sure you don't buy a 10-pack of postcards, put it on, and make a night of it?
Look, man, I don't travel enough, but...
Hey, you could get them locally, I'm sure.
Yeah, true.
I'll watch it if it's like, the Sunday night movie.
Yeah, I think it would be the early Sunday night movie. Back in the Clarissa Explains It All or Sabrina the Teenage Witch time slot is where you'd find this one in 1998. But not so much. Let's jump straight into your next choice, Mark, because Lazer had two in a go. Let's talk about a little unknown horror film that everyone's auntie ever thinks is the scariest horror film of all time. From 1973, we are talking about The Exorcist. Yeah. I saw it for the first time in 1999 when it was re-released in cinemas. Okay. Because I don't think it ever was allowed to be shown in Australian cinemas when it was first released.
Yeah, that's probably,
and I was listening to a podcast series a while back about the satanic panic of the 80s and 90s that happened in America. And apparently The Exorcist was one of the first things in media that portrayed the devil as a single person, like as a single entity rather than an idea, or like a blanket idea. And I was like, okay, that's awesome.
Interesting. That's a really, interesting piece of trivia. But yeah, Exorcist. I just remember being at my nana's house. You're a young kid. You go to your nana's house. You get some videos.
I didn't know your nana.
Well, I'm sorry about that.
Sorry.
So we'll be in one room watching a movie, and I remember going in the kitchen, and my grandfather was sitting on the couch watching the other TV. And he was...
Don't tell me it's the scary story. I have to lock up this building later.
Yeah, wait for this.
And his head spun around.
Yeah. And he was watching the TV really intently. I was like, what's he doing? I've never seen him do this before. And on TV was the Mother Mary statue covered in blood. I'm like, Grandy, what are you watching? He's like, just a silly movie. Off you go. And that night I was like, all right, tomorrow I'm going to get the newspaper and look through the TV guide and find out what that was.
Wow, you've just aged yourself perfectly. You belong in this studio right now.
And it was The Exorcist. And I was like, Mom, have you heard of The Exorcist? And she wasn't she's like, what? How do you know about this? And I was like, yeah, Grandy was watching it. And but yeah, from those warnings, I was with my cousin. We were like, I don't know, 12 years old. Went to the video store to rent it out. Wouldn't let us have it because we weren't old enough. So we got my cousin's dad to come in, got the videos, went back to his house, watched it, and it was incredible.
Everything you thought it was going to be.
Absolutely, just intense.
It always blows my mind as well because, like I said, I saw it for the first time in '99. There's a scene of Regan doing the crab crawl upside down the stairs.
Yeah.
That wasn't in the version that scared our parents.
And that is like one of the most... Whoa,
it's still to this day, with no real CGI. It's so upsetting to watch.
Oh, that's so
And to know that was taken out of the original, I'm like...
Yeah.
Can you imagine the way the world would have received it if it was in the original release?
That's just...
How good are those movies that when you're a kid, it's like... They're almost like an urban legend to you, even though they're a real thing that exists, because you're not allowed to watch them. So it just it builds up in your head. So you can't wait to finally watch that.
You have just described perfectly Silence of the Lambs for me.
Yeah.
Because my dad and one of his mates, when we were on a holiday in Sydney, went and saw it. And they came back that night to where we were staying and shared it with all the other parents, how, above and beyond it was and the scariest thing ever. So I spent all of like my primary school years terrified of the idea of this film, Silence of the Lambs. And then I finally watched it and I'm like, Troma would really have fun with this property.
Yeah, I remember like my dad, I hadn't watched it until I was a teen or whatever, and my dad, like it was on All-Star or whatever, and my dad was just like, oh, you want scary. This is scary. And I watched it and I'm like, what was he watching, man? Like, it was good, but I wasn't there like shitting my dacks.
Oh, because in 99 when I saw it for the first time, it was this was how it should have been seen. We've put 40 more minutes back into the film. It's like, I don't have that kind of time. It's already a 2-hour movie. So it was almost 3 hours, and I reckon 40 minutes they put back in was just cutting to Middle Eastern statues of Captain Howdy. I'm like, can we move this along a bit? What is the scariest movie you've ever seen in your life?
Mine's tie between Shining and Texas Chainsaw.
Okay, yep.
The original.
Yeah, Texas Chainsaw is generally horrifying for me. Yep, absolutely. It has to be up there. Other than that, it's hard to be scared to the core. I like, atmosphere is good, but to be genuinely scared, it's kind of difficult to come across, I think.
Because the era of horror that you're touching on this evening, it's when it had to be more than what you were seeing was the scare. So it was the idea of it, the way it was executed. Whereas now it's all jump scares. And
true.
I remember maybe 3 or 4 years ago, my wife and I were watching the film The Descent about the cave divers. I don't know if you've seen it.
Yeah. No.
But there's so many jump scares in it that it just puts you on edge. And it's almost sensory overload. Whereas you look at the iconic horror films and you're like, there's more to it because you're not... With for an example, say you're a kid riding your bike home late at night, you're not going to be thinking about the monsters from The Descent. You're going to be thinking about Leatherface, or you're going to be thinking about getting possessed and stuff. Yeah. All right. Well, we will jump into some music as we continue this look. Let's hear from these guys. It is 100.5 WOWFM as that song just disappears without my knowledge. We are talking all about the Tough Boys' favourite films, and it is time to talk about a director that has done 3 of the greatest science fiction films of all time. Starting off with RoboCop. He also followed things up with Starship Troopers, but right in the middle there is one of Arnold Schwarzenegger's best films of all time, Total Recall, picked by Lazer. Why did you pick this film?
Well, anyone who knows me knows how obsessed with Arnie I am. And
3 verbs.
Three. Oh, I thought you said 3 verbs. Yeah, well, we last time I watched it, we did an Arnie drinking game to it, and if anyone wants to know the Arnie drinking game rules, it's the reason it works is because it's so simple and so easy to remember. We drink
responsibly on this show, but you can hit up the Tough Boys on social media if you want to find out about that drinking game.
Yeah, hit us up and I'll tell you there. But
not to take the wind out of your
sail.
That's
I don't know the rules here, but Arnie movies. This is behind T2. This is, to me, obviously his second best movie. Paul Verhoeven had just that whacked out idea for a lot of sci-fi movies, as you were saying, like with RoboCop and Starship Troopers. I remember watching, I think it was the RoboCop, or listening to the commentary on that, and he was obsessed with the unisex showers, and he finally got to do it properly in Starship Troopers. But Total Recall, man, it is a trip, and it's an action movie that has everything you want from your classic, just straight up, I can watch this, quote it, have fun at the explosions, all that sort of stuff. But if you think about it, there's some crazy ideas that make you flip your idea of what life is.
It's high concept science fiction that everyone writes off as derpy action science fiction, which is not the case. And that's always the case with Paul Verhoeven.
It is.
Just the way he manages to subvert expectations, but also slip in all this just satire of everything. And it's so well done.
I want to know, has there ever been a bad Philip K. Dick adaptation of film? Because I don't know if I haven't seen one, but I also don't know all his books.
I reckon anything. Electric Dreams. I
don't know.
I haven't
based
seen on his
Blade Runner was based on Android's stream of Electric Sheep.
Yeah,
and then so you got Total Recall was We Can Remember It For You Wholesale. I think it was the book. And A Scanner Darkly was really good.
That's the one where they rotoscoped all the characters.
Amazing. With Keanu. And then
Minority Report
was awesome. So, like, he obviously seems to be the author that always asked where technology is taking the idea of life and reality. And every movie I've watched that were based on his stuff.
Screamers. I love that movie with RoboCop's Paul Welker.
So, yeah, but Total Recall, man, just... it's probably my favourite Arnie one-liner would be, "See you at the party, Richter," as he's holding the dude's arms.
I judge people whenever someone doesn't say fortnight and says 2 weeks, I turn it into a Total Recall.
2 weeks.
Yeah, and if they don't get it, I'm like, we can't be friends.
I don't know if you saw our friend Max Morby, who's done all our clips so far. He did a promo for our latest one. That we put out there 2 weeks prior to it being released, and it was just he did all the overdubs himself. Oh man, it was so funny.
Max is killing it,
dude. He's so good at everything. Man. I wish I had that energy to just like keep doing this. But.
Yeah, he's nailing it. Fantastic film, and I guess we talked about it so much before that we should hit on. I believe Mark picked Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Is that all? Yeah. Cool. What else did you pick? No. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, 1974, the film that the whole world, much like our generation did with Blair Witch Project, where no one understood if it was real or it wasn't. Texas Chainsaw Massacre presented itself much like a true crime documentary. So a lot of people, because of that intro, thought it was a true story. Why did you pick this film?
Because it's just undoubtedly an absolute classic movie that portrays an amazing concept. I mean, just the whole thought of the characters, the house, just everything, all the elements. It's just it all comes together, and it's something that could actually happen. You know what I mean?
100%.
It's the simplicity of the evil.
Yeah,
of
absolutely.
Just like they don't even see this as a weird way to live.
No, it's the obscurity of it, you know, and it's just
a complete lack of supernatural elements.
Absolutely,
straight up just killers.
The physicality of it all. It's just, it's a real visceral movie that just, and even just the production value of it, you know, just the way it's filmed, the look of it, the grittiness.
I love just some of the techniques they use to just keep you on edge, where you're not even realizing why. Just the sound of the chainsaw, where you know it's called the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and that first you hear this jigga 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 for ages. You're like, is someone just going to come out with a chainsaw? Like you're just sitting there on edge, and then it just turns out to be an engine.
Yeah.
And you're like,
genius.
And then there's other times when you're hearing that and it's the truck. And you're like, just little things like that that just you're always like, oh, man.
And it's so effective because it was made for so little money. The poor lighting is a character in itself.
Mm-hmm.
And that was, emulated in a lot of early John Carpenter films. The poor lighting is part of what is the charm of the film. But the noise of the loon in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, that weird bird noise, that is terrifying. And I can only imagine if I heard it late at night and I was out in the middle of nowhere.
Just trigger that response, man.
Gotta go.
It's definitely a very oral movie. It's with the camera and all that sort of stuff.
That's the loon's end. Yeah.
It's just
not the loon.
No, not the loon.
Now we're gonna hit up on Mark's final film of this evening, and I have to ask. Just looking over your list, you okay, Mark?
Yeah, I'm doing fine, man. Look, these movies, I like heavy things, you know, things that kind of shake me up a bit. So
hey, how you doing? I'm heavy ass.
Absolutely.
That's my doctor. So we are going back.
Finally, it's Dennis the Menace
from the makers of Rob Schneider's The Animal. We are talking about the director of Master and Commander and The Club, the Aussie AFL classic, Peter Weir. He had the World War I story starring...
Did he do Picnic at Hanging Rock as well?
He did. A very young Mel Gibson. We are talking about Gallipoli for the first time ever here on DVG. Why did you pick this film?
I remember being shown this movie in primary school.
Yep.
And I had an obsession with World War I as a kid. Something about trench warfare. I don't know. It's just that whole that environment. It just I don't know. There's something about it. Even just the way it looked. It's just trenches and no man's land. It's just so close to to death, I guess. And this movie is just a brilliant masterpiece. And the music, using music from Oxygen, that soundtrack during the desert scene, unbelievable. It's just a moving movie. It's the best war movie for me personally. And yeah, just watching it as a kid, it shook me up. So I was scared to watch it again. It just kind of resonated on a level. And yeah.
Did you stick with war movies after this one? Like, did you go up to the moderns? Like,
Oh, you know what? I remember seeing Saving Private Ryan with Dad at the cinema. Yep. I left that cinema shaking as well. That was just full on, your Full Metal Jacket.
Love Full Metal Jacket.
Amazing
I love
movie.
the first half of Full Metal Jacket.
I love both halves for different reasons, but that first half is the iconic.
Just in the train. Yeah, unbelievable. Yeah. So I do like a good war movie. I love a good space movie, but yeah, Gallipoli, growing up, look.
Oh, Peter Weir also did Witness with Harrison Ford, the Amish movie. That's a fantastic film. Wow, I'm just looking at the films of Peter Weir, and he's
pretty.
A lot of people, I've read a lot of like big name directors are like, if you haven't seen all Peter Weir stuff, put down.
I'm just looking. He did
The Truman Show,
Witness. He did Dead Poets Society, The Truman Show, Master and Commander.
I love The Truman Show.
The Way Back as well. That's a really grueling film.
Unbelievable.
Picnic at Carrying Rock. Yep, you were right.
He's wow, man.
He's a filmmaker's filmmaker.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Holy moly.
That's range, because The Truman Show is nothing like anything else on that list.
Man. I watched that movie a few weeks ago, and
that's a good one, man.
It's just brilliant, man.
Now, it is time to talk about the Brat Pack, because Lazer has picked perhaps the third most picked film on DVG of all time. Number one being Goodfellas. Number two being The Empire Strikes Back.
Oh.
Number three being The Breakfast Club from 1985.
T2 would be more popular, but yeah, cool.
Why did you pick this film?
I watched it when I was in high school, and it made me feel cool as heck. It just, like, the first time I watched it, my mate Timmy K gave it to me on, like...
Shout out Timmy K.
Timmy K. A DivX rip of it.
Nice.
And I watched it just by myself, and like I was like, how... And I got obsessed with the Brat Pack after that, went straight into Pretty in Pink and 16 Candles and St. Elmo's Fire and stuff. But yeah, Breakfast Club just stood above all. Every single part of it seems so deliberate that you want it to be exactly that way. There's nothing that you're ever like, I don't like this little bit or whatever. You look forward to like just the way Bender walks in and starts knocking things off the table and stuff. Just little things like that. It's just like the detail of it.
It's a masterclass of characterization, essentially, because you get so much from so little in The Breakfast Club. And it is a film that I'm pretty sure everyone has watched all of their life. I still rewatch it and pick up things I'd never seen before or noticed before.
I also love a lot of the dialogue isn't like... He could have easily made every single piece of dialogue the coolest thing ever for each one. But there's moments where you hear it and you're just like, I don't even quite know what that means. And you actually have to just think about it. Like, why is that affecting them? Because that doesn't... Like, when he's like, what do they do to you? They ignore me. Oh. Well, that doesn't seem like the weirdest thing in the world, but it makes you actually step back and go, okay, different things are affecting different people, I guess. And then that ending, fist in the air. Forget about me. And Simple Minds are an incredible and underrated band. Everyone should listen to Simple Minds.
Very much so. I have a recommendation when it comes to a lot of the new wave music and stuff at the moment. Professor of Rock on YouTube. He's this dude that does like deep dives into, like Blue Oyster Cult, all these like yacht rock bands.
Yeah.
And he's so passionate, and it makes you fall in love with any song he's talking about. So at the moment, I'm obsessed with Depeche Mode just because he's obsessed with them. That's my recommendation.
Depeche Mode are incredible, man. Enjoy the Silence, one of the greatest songs ever.
Amen. Yeah. So that is both your lists of 5. We've got a bit of a background on who you guys are. We've checked that Mark's okay, and we'll be giving him some numbers before he leaves this evening in case things change.
Thanks, man.
Where can anyone check you guys out? We've got 2 minutes of ramble time.
Ramble time. Well, not at any local venue near you for a while, which sucks.
And that's just supply and demand. That's nothing to do with COVID.
No, like, we're just not being asked at all. I can't wait to get back on the stage because that is where we shine. But apart from that, check out our 3 clips on YouTube for Greek Olympics, Sexy Man, and Two Way Street. We're on the Facebook if you want to keep updated. We're on the Instagram. We're not on the Twitter, but I'm on the Twitter if you want to follow me and see me drunk tweet Lars Ulrich about how good the load error is.
Nice.
Because load, why they do not...
18 years old this week.
No,
right?
14? No, 24.
24 years old. And St. Anger is 18 years old this week or something.
They're a day apart, really.
Yes, yep.
So, because they just... This has got nothing to do with Top Boys. They just uploaded a show from 97 and they played Wasting My Hate live on it and the energy was ferocious. Why do they not play that anymore? Ain't My Bitch, they don't play that anymore?
I don't care what happens and what Metallica do from now on because seeing them play Dyer's Eve live... Done.
You were good.
Done. Best thing ever. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Don't forget to check out the Tough Boys on all the social medias. Make sure you check in on Mark now and then just to make sure everything's going okay.
Appreciate it.
Guys, thank you so much. The Emerald Tower is coming up very shortly. This is DVG.
DVG.